Hi there, I'm author and editor Talena Winters, and I'm here today to tell you how to use a logline to help you write better, faster, and keep on track, whether you're a pantser, a plotter, or somewhere in between. Let's go. What is a logline? So a logline is a one-sentence description of your entire plot, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about a short story, an entire novel, or a series. You should be able to describe the entire plot within a single sentence, the main conflicts, and that's exactly what a logline does. So it embodies all the important elements of your story and conflicts of your story, and it also helps you see early on if you're missing something really important, such as the reason that the reader should care, which would be also known as your stakes. And if you're missing that, which a surprising number of new writers do, then yeah, it's going to flop. You're going to get rolling along, and then you're going to realize, I don't actually have anything to talk about anymore. I wrote down the cool world that I was imagining, and now I'm done. So now what do I do? So doing this with the work to get this logline worked out ahead of time gives you something to write about, to keep it going in that really cool world you thought of, or to keep exploring that cool concept you thought of. So here are the basic elements of a logline. This is one formula, but it's the formula I like to use because it includes everything. And we'll go through it in a few minutes. I'm actually releasing a blog post this week that explores this in a little more depth and some variations of this. But here's the full log line. Just if that's what you need, here's what it is. It is protagonist with a need, plus antagonist with a need, plus stakes, or what will happen if the protagonist doesn't get what they're trying to accomplish, plus an ironic twist or an intriguing twist, and optionally you can add a ticking clock. Let's go through this really quickly so you can see what each of these elements is about. So first of all, here's some things to remember. When you're describing your protagonist and your antagonist, don't use names. Use like nouns and adjectives so that we have an idea about who they are and why it matters, okay? Telling us that Bob wants to marry Sue does not tell us anything about Bob or Sue, but if you tell us that a control freak wants to marry a free spirit, all of a sudden we go, wow, there's some conflict there. The needs of your protagonist and antagonist should conflict with each other as much as possible. You know, notice what I did with Bob and Sue there. I made them very opposite personalities, and that's pretty much what you want to do no matter what it is you're setting up. You want to have a protagonist coming up against something that's going to force them to change if they want to accomplish their goal. So that means that the needs or the wants of the protagonist and the antagonist need to be in as much conflict with each other as possible. The antagonist does not need to be a person. So you could have it like be a system of government, an organization, a disease, a belief, force of nature, weather. There's all kinds of things that the antagonist can be. But if it isn't an actual character, you're going to need to have stand-in characters that kind of represent that force or non-character person or non-character antagonist and pushes against that protagonist throughout your story. So, and it could be multiple stand-ins, or it could be one that kind of represents that. Stakes. The best stakes involve a figurative or a literal death. So if the protagonist doesn't accomplish their goal, this is going to happen. Either the death of a relationship, a dream, a goal, an idea, a business, or they are literally going to die, or maybe the whole world is going to die. I mean, depending how big you want your stakes to be and what your genre is. The twist needs to be something unexpected, intriguing, or ironic. So a good setup will often have this as inherent conflict between your protagonist and your antagonist. For instance, you could have... I recently taught a class about this, and we came up with the idea that the protagonist was a spy who was actually a double agent, who was a double agent because he was trying to protect his family, and his daughter was working in the same agency. She's the antagonist, and she's discovered recently that there's a mole in her agency, and it's her job to figure out who it is and bring them to justice. So of course the mole is her dad. Right there we've got an inherent conflict and twist right in the protagonist and antagonist setup there. So that's a great way to do it, but you could do it something a little bit different that's like a irony of the world, or irony of the setting, or the situation, or all kinds of things. You can use your imagination on that. And the ticking clock, or deadline by which the goal must be achieved, or disastrous consequences will occur, and those disastrous consequences are our stakes. It always heightens urgency and tension. You don't have to have a ticking clock, but if you do, or if you're needing a way to amp up your story, add one, because it'll automatically just ramp it up. The shorter the deadline and the higher the stakes, the greater the story tension. And this can be used in any genre. And for more examples of that, go see my blog post about that. It's coming out on Friday. So here are 3 example log lines to go with this. You can see what I'm talking about. The first one is for The Fugitive. I went from the movie that came out in 2002, I believe it is, with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones. And here's my log line for that. A successful surgeon, falsely accused of killing his wife, tries to prove his innocence with a death sentence hanging over his head while being pursued by a relentless veteran U.S. Marshal who is just doing his job. Second one, Good Omens. And the storyline of the recent miniseries, very, very closely follows the book, so this is the same for both. When the Antichrist is delivered to Earth as a baby, an angel and a demon team up to prevent the apocalypse before he turns 11 years old. If only they could figure out where they put him. And the last one, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And so again, I'm trying to hit a different genre. A happy-go-lucky teenager takes his girlfriend and uptight best friend on one last fun day around Chicago before graduation, pursued by a maniacally focused principal determined to expose his truancy, and his invisible, jealous older sister, who is determined to expose his slacker ways to their parents. So if you listen through those again, you'll see all those elements of that log line that I was talking about. I'm going to give you one more bonus one before I'm done. And this one is for one of my own novels, which is a romantic suspense called Finding Heaven. And this one is a sexual abuse survivor with a cancer diagnosis is forced to confront her abusive past when she meets a humanitarian who works with sex trafficking victims in Mumbai who carries his own dark secret. So that's it. I hope that you got some good tips from this video about how to create a log line. As I said, I explore this in much more detail in my blog post, and I also teach a class about this. I'm about to launch a Patreon page at patreon.com/Talena Winters. And as part of that Patreon page, I'm going to be doing monthly live classes for writers to help them improve their writing. And so this is one of the things I'll also be teaching in more detail there. And if you need more help with working out your log line, please go to my website, talenawinters.com/editing. I have some services there that I would love to help you out in person to develop your story. Thanks so much, and happy writing. Have a great day.